South America is facing a new humanitarian and political crisis, one triggered not by war or natural disaster, but by the power of rhetoric and electoral fear. This week, Peru's President José Jerí announced that his government would declare a state of emergency along the southern border, deploying armed forces to contain a sudden influx of migrants arriving from Chile. The images flooding Peruvian television tell the story. Families walking through the desert with backpacks, blankets, and garbage bags filled with everything they own, trying to escape a country that once promised them stability. Most of them are Venezuelan migrants, people who fled their nation's economic collapse and authoritarian rule between 2015 and 2021. But now, with Chile entering a heated presidential election dominated by anti-immigration messaging, the same migrants who rebuilt their lives in Chile are again on the move. What is happening on the Peru-Chile border is more than a policy issue. It is the human consequence of a political campaign built on fear, a reminder of how quickly entire communities can be set in motion when they are made to feel unwanted. For years, Chile was considered the economic miracle of Latin America, a place where migrants could find jobs, safety, education, and a chance to live with dignity. Hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans crossed Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru to reach Chile's borders, believing it offered something few countries in the region could: stability. But over the last 5 years, Chile's migration debate has become increasingly tense. Rising crime, gang activity, and sensational media coverage created a perception that immigration, especially from Venezuela, was fueling insecurity. Although experts point out that organized crime is linked to broader regional networks rather than refugees themselves, public anger grew. Many migrants struggled to regularize their status, and delays under the Boric administration left thousands in legal limbo. Into this atmosphere stepped José Antonio Kast, an ultra-conservative lawyer running for president for the second time, known for his hardline stance on law and order. Kast transformed immigration into the central theme of his campaign, using imagery of border chaos, crime statistics, and political fear to rally voters across Chile's right-wing base. The turning point came when Kast traveled to Chile's northern desert border with Peru and filmed a now viral campaign video. Standing in a barren landscape marked by wind and dust, he issued a direct warning to migrants without legal status. You have 111 days to leave Chile voluntarily. If not, we will stop you, we will detain you, we will expel you, you will leave with only the clothes on your back. This was more than a speech. It was a message that echoed across migrant communities from Santiago to Arica. Within days, people panicked. Some Venezuelan families abandoned their jobs, homes, and schools, fearing that a Kast presidency would mean mass deportations. Social networks filled with posts urging immediate departure. As migrants fled northward, the Peruvian border was suddenly overwhelmed. Local residents watched as hundreds arrived with no documents to enter Peru legally, creating a humanitarian bottleneck. Peruvian media broadcast images of stranded families sleeping on the desert ground, surrounded by police and soldiers unsure how to handle the unexpected surge. Peru's government feared the situation could spiral into chaos, mirroring past migrant crises along the Colombia-Venezuela border. President José Jerí responded quickly but firmly. Visiting the southern border, he announced that Peru would activate a state of emergency, mobilizing additional military units to reinforce security and prevent irregular crossings. Jerí argued that while Peru sympathizes with the humanitarian plight of Venezuelan families, the nation must protect its borders and prevent uncontrolled entry. Officials described a scenario where Peru risked being caught in the middle of Chile's internal political battle. In border towns such as Tacna, residents reported confusion and rising tension, with migrants stuck between a country that no longer wants them and another that refuses to let them in. Meanwhile, Peruvian Foreign Minister Hugo de Zela criticized Kast directly, saying that a presidential candidate cannot speak on behalf of the Chilean government. His message was clear. Chilean political rhetoric was not only influencing voters inside the country, it was destabilizing an entire region. By tying his electoral campaign to threats against migrants, Kast had transformed vulnerable people into political weapons, and the consequences were unfolding in real time along Peru's frontier. Tensions escalated further as the migrant outflow became a central topic in Chile's own political landscape. The Boric administration struggled to balance its promise of humane immigration policy with the pressure of rising public anger. Security Minister Luis Cordero publicly acknowledged the impact of Kast's rhetoric, stating, "Rhetoric sometimes has consequences. People cannot be used as a means to create controversy for the elections." This was more than criticism. It was an admission that political messaging had triggered a mass movement of people. Yet Kast doubled down, releasing a second video repeating his ultimatum and accusing the government of failing to protect Chileans. His message resonated with voters afraid of gang violence and cross-border crime, even as rights groups warned that demonizing migrants risked pushing thousands into desperation. Chile, a country of 18.5 million, is now wrestling with a central question. What does it mean to uphold security while respecting the dignity of people who sought refuge within its borders? With the presidential runoff approaching on December 14th, these tensions have become part of the national identity debate, and the fate of thousands of migrants hangs in the balance. Across South America, governments are watching nervously. The Peruvian state of emergency is now being framed as a test. Can a country manage a humanitarian surge without inflaming political tensions or provoking violence? Experts warn that if the crisis worsens, Ecuador and Bolivia may tighten their borders as well, creating a chain reaction across the continent. For Venezuelan families who fled one crisis only to be trapped in another, the situation is heartbreaking. Many have lived in Chile for years, worked legally or informally, paid rent, enrolled their children in school, and contributed to Chilean society. Now they face an impossible choice: return to a Venezuela still grappling with economic collapse, remain stranded in the desert with no documents, or attempt irregular crossings into neighboring countries. What began as a campaign tactic has become a regional crisis, and its effects will not vanish after Election Day. As Peru's troops take positions along the border and Chile's election draws near, one thing is painfully clear. In the battle for political power, the most vulnerable are often the first to suffer. And in South America's shifting political landscape, the future of migration and the stability of entire border regions hangs on decisions made in the heat of electoral campaigns.